Hello, Shmai. I'm from Wales, so we've just been practicing our Welsh over here. Yeah, I'm going to talk to you about Resurrecting the Content King. This is actually a crown from the Eisteddfod. It was designed by a designer who worked with our School of Chemistry at Cardiff University to use actual science to make this crown, so I thought it was kind of apt to include it. Me, so I'm Deputy Head of Digital Communications at Cardiff University. I look after a team of content producers for the university. I've got about 10 content producers at the moment in a central team. We work in communications and marketing. I've worked in HE Digital for about 11 years. I've always been a content person, that's my background. My boss is tech, design, dev, UX. I'm content, so that's the way things sort of get fought out in our office. Yeah, so that's me. So, what do I think the problem is? What am I going to talk about? Well, so Jeffrey Zellman from A List Apart, he wrote an article back in May, I think it was, called The Cult of the Complex. And he talked about how we're this industry and we extol innovation over customer satisfaction and we prefer algorithm to human judgment. And I think this is why, and it kind of just really resonated with me, that I feel like we've got to this point, and because digital is so all-encompassing and accessible, but we've kind of lifted innovation to the peak of desirability. You know, where I work, it feels like sometimes if we're not constantly innovating and trying new things and doing the cool, shiny new things, then we're not really relevant. And the problem is that, well, and I should say as well, the problem is that I also think elements of what we do, and this is a bit, the other problem is that I might offend some of you here, so I'm really sorry, and I'm really not anti-dev or designer UX, but I think that design and development in UX have kind of become fashionable. You know, do you know, in my eyes, and I think of developers, and I think of people working in shipping containers, and they go to coffee shops and they only eat food served out of a shoe. That's kind of where I feel that, you know, it's sort of gone. We're in this hipster, you know, people are debating React versus Vue and, you know, waiting for the next disruptive tech to come out, and, you know, everyone's got AstroTurf in their offices. And you know, it is true. Who's got AstroTurf in their office? It would be these guys, wouldn't it? I have to say, yesterday at dinner, we had this whole conversation about Rocket, about Zengenti literally being the most hipster thing to come out of Ludlow in a very, very long time. So, but you know, the mindset's becoming catching. So what I feel is that our stakeholders, and because I don't think it's us. I don't necessarily think it's us in the room. I think it's the people we deal with. So our stakeholders, they come to us and they think that the most important thing is applying a cool design or a complex functionality. And that is much more desirable than anything else. I mean, how many of you ever get asked for this? Like, oh God, we get asked, the wheel thing is something, we literally had a run of being asked for wheels and compasses and cycles, and they wanted us to develop all of these on our web pages. They didn't know why, just because somebody thought putting something in a circle was cool. Or being told, look, I just want 4 boxes on the page. There've got to be 4 boxes, they've got to be on the page, and they've got to be in this order. Did anyone else get that? Or just because we should just create an app. Let's just make an app. Do we do Twitter? Do we do Twitter? I don't know. So, and that ends up that it becomes this kind of, that layout and that functionality is more important than the content that your users are actually searching for. And the problem is as well, is that content is not hip, it's not desirable, it's not exciting. If content was a car, it would be a Honda Jazz. It would be the which car of the year, reliable, staid, boring, does what everybody needs it to do, but you know, it's not eating food out of a slipper. So I think content is kind of sat here waiting. It's waiting while you figure out all the fancy frameworks, you know, what you're going to build to present it in. In fact, and let's face it, the only time content became remotely cool or had anything hipster attached to it was when content strategy came out. And when content strategy came out, everyone was just trying to figure out what on earth it meant and what it meant they should actually do. So some intelligent people, probably a lot more clever than me, talked about content strategy, planning for the creation, delivery and governance of useful and usable content, and about the mindset, culture and approach to delivering your customers' information needs in all the places they are searching for. And then me, I think it basically means publishing the right content to the right people at the right time in the right place using the right words. It's kind of simple. But the problem is it's seen as secondary to its hipster cousins, design and development. And I think essentially it's created in the wrong time by the wrong people, made with the wrong aims or just no aims in mind. It's published with no plan of how it's going to be promoted, how anyone's going to maintain it, or, Lord help us, archive it, let's take it down. You know, nothing's ever done with it. So we've got this, you know, when you get into a project, and I'm wondering if, again, raise your hands, feel free to wave, roll your eyes, or just sigh really heavily if this, again, happens to you. So when you get into a project, of this timescale of a typical project, so you get the visual design and functionality phase of the project, lots of discussions of how it should work, how it should look, what will it do when users land on it, all that time spent on design and development. Then you get this little bit here, time to find some content that's going to fit into that design and functionality. Then we get this bit, testing, fixes and launches, and that's the bit when the designers and developers have to go back and fix everything because the content doesn't work in the framework or the design that you've built for it, because it wasn't considered till that tiny little squeeze bit of the project. And that's something I think is, you know, this huge problem. And it's not just me. Luckily, again, famous content people are saying the same thing. Christina Halvorsen said this back in January. Companies are still spending big money on website projects and leaving the content until the last minute, which blows everything up. What year is this? It's 2018, if anyone was unsure. It feels insane to me that I would even tweet this in 2018. Like, that is still an actual pain point. Will we ever figure it out? Maybe AI will fix it. I don't know. I might go and jump in the ocean with her. Then that leads me on to this other problem. And I think this kind of comes alongside this. And now at this point, I have to be a little bit careful about how I say this, because when I originally wrote this presentation, my boss very kindly pointed out to me that I'd called the title of this slide was The Cult of Productivity, which actually productivity is a great thing, and I'm not denying that anyone should be productive, but the idea of the cult of production. And I think a couple of people today have already mentioned this. Anyone read any Jerry McGovern? Yes, it's amazing. Rebel's Guide to Digital Transformation. If, like me, you've been through digital transformation 4 or 5 times, it's such a good book. It's fantastic, really eye-opening. But he talks about how most organisations still reward employees based on how much they produce and how long they spend producing it. We also reward them on how much they please their managers. Are any of you managers here? You're the people we're all trying to please, yeah. When that pleasing relates to digital, it often involves the production and publishing of the stuff the manager wants published, or the manager's manager. You know, it's like sometimes with this, I feel that with content, it's like people can't think of a reason not to. Like, there's no reason not to publish it. You know, if we just keep adding content, then that's going to solve our problems. And I think it's kind of like content first went bad. You know, it used to be that content first, and then technology came in and all this cool stuff, and it became more about the cool stuff and the frameworks than it did about the content. And now we don't think about content, we just keep pushing it out. We just keep making more of it, and we're not thinking whether it's good or whether it actually answers the questions, or whether what's already on the website maybe just isn't doing the right thing. We just keep putting more of it on there. And every now and again we put more of it on there in a wheel or in an app or in something flashy and funky, and you know, oh, I just said the word funky, I've just aged myself, I'm sorry, I apologise to my nephew and niece. So, why should any of you care? Why should you care? Content is the number one reason users visit a website. And there's 2 things I think people want content for. So like, you're either sat on the toilet and you're looking for something just to inspire you or just to fill a bit of time, you know, that's what we use content for. Or you're looking for something because you're trying to solve a problem. And to go back to that weird metaphor of content being a car, but basically websites are a vehicle for content, you know, we have to address what our users want. And we have to do that better than our competitors. So that's why it's important. Content also, and I think, again, already said by Gabriel in his talk before, when we're talking about not using lorem ipsum, but if we do content first, it actually saves our designers and our developers time, because they get it right first time, because they know what they're building for, they know what they're designing for, and we're not going back to them afterwards asking them to change something. So I think that's why it's really important. So what can we do? I think we need to win people over, and obviously for us, most of it, I presume you've all got internal stakeholders, and those are the people you work with, big organisations, lots of different departments vying for your time and attention and asking you to communicate for them or with them. So we need to win them over, and we need to convince them that content is going to solve their problems, and that using good content is going to do what they need, you know, what their users need them to do. We need to show them the benefits of good content and make it worth spending the time on. But the other thing is I don't think there is a quick fix. I don't think there is one magic bullet. I wish there was. When I first started thinking about this talk, I'd kind of had in my idea, I'd been to a couple of conferences and I'd got really annoyed. And I was sat there being this content person in the audience where everyone was talking about, I don't know, techie things that I don't understand, and probably like half of the talks that we had earlier today. And it was just making me really, really frustrated. So I thought, I'm going to go and talk about this, and I'm going to go and have this. And I started writing this talk, and I had these really grand plans that I was going to write. Like, I thought I was going to write a book or something. I don't know. I was going to be the next Erin Kassane or something. And I was going to write out this proper order of what you should do and how you were going to solve this problem. And then I went around that for about 3 months and realised that I couldn't, because I don't think there is an answer. Because every time we do something, it's different. Every situation is different. And I don't think we can just apply something to it and say, right, this is like Agile, we're going to do it in this way, we're going to have a stand-up every day, and and everyone knows how Agile works. It kind of, that goes a bit crazy and wild. So I could just end this now and say that's it, there is no fix. Or what I'm going to do is just show you 5 things that we've done. So at Cardiff University, we have been trying to get our stakeholders to think more about content and to be a bit more focused on it. So these are 5 things that we've done. Some of them are really small things, so I apologise. Others are slightly bigger, and maybe some of them are half-baked. We're kind of halfway there with them. We're not perfect by any means, we're just trying. So yeah, I'm going to talk you through those things. So the first thing I think we need to do is we have to show the value of good content. If we can show the value, then we can make people care about it. If they can't see why it's valuable, why would they spend any time or any money on it? And everyone here is mostly public sector, aren't you? Is that pretty much right? I don't know. Everyone's funding is being cut, everything's tight, everything's difficult. So trying to convince people that what you're doing is important and the value of what you're doing. One of my challenges at the moment is trying to get people to give me more people. I want more people. And I'm saying, stop putting people in the project management team. Give us people, because we're going to solve the problems. They're not solving the problems. They're just going to write a report about it. Any project managers? You're laughing. I'm like, I'm sorry, I just offended you. Boo, project management. So we need to show people how valuable it is. So we did a piece of work, and we were a little bit behind in terms of doing digital marketing centrally at the university. It's been going on in lots of different places, but in terms of centrally, we've been kind of a little bit behind. So we were asked to run a digital marketing campaign to promote our open day, because our open day bookings were low, and we really, really needed to increase open day bookings, because we know that a booking on an open day, if people come to Cardiff and come to our open day, they are so much more likely to come. So we know their conversion. So we want to get people to our open day. So we kind of finally sorted out our pixel, something called a pixel. So we're doing proper tracking, and we can now see what we're doing. And what we're able to do, so we ran this campaign, but then we did loads of measurement, and we sat and we talked to management, and we showed them the results. And some of the things we were able to tell them, so for example, we could tell them that this video at the bottom, it's like a really informal tour around some of the stuff that you can get at Cardiff, that got over 1% click-through rate. This photograph of Cardiff Bay, which us 30-plus-year-olds think is beautiful, nobody cared about, 0.36% click-through rate. So, yeah, okay. So we started to get an idea of which of our content was valuable. We started being able to say, okay, we know, and we can see that both videos we had a slightly higher uplift. We could tell the pictures, that we started to see what pictures were getting a response. We started looking at what text was getting a response. So therefore, we can start to say to people, right, this is the content we need to be making. This is the stuff we need to do. We need to do this stuff because this gets a better click-through rate, and click-through rates are going to start getting us conversions. Then we looked at, so something that had always happened before was that when we did a campaign, we would just send people from the social media ad, whatever platform it was on, we would send them directly through to the website, to the open day page. Now, anyone who's at a university knows that an open day page is literally like the dumping ground for everything, because it has to work all year round. So you've got content on there, not just for people booking on an open day, but maybe people who want to come and do, like, we have days when people can just turn up and come and get a tour, and they can come and get an audio guide and a variety of things. So it was not tailored. And what we're also doing in the campaigns that we were doing was trying to target particular demographics. So for one example, we were targeting students from London. So we decided, right, we need to build landing pages. So we started building some landing pages, our landing page for London, for example, focused on the fact that Cardiff is much cheaper than London, and without calling ourselves a cheap, obviously. But we're still a capital city, still a fantastic nightlife. We're only 2 hours away from London. So we're able to really kind of include information that we felt was going to kind of grab their attention and work for them. What we could then show was that in terms of conversions, the people who went to a landing page rather than the website, there's quite a big difference in conversion. So those people were much more likely to actually book on an open day. And on our landing page, all you could click on, you could literally fill in the form, which we embedded in the landing page, so you didn't even have to go anywhere. They started filling the form in the landing page. There was nowhere else to go. We had you captive. Much bigger conversion rate. And when we first talked about doing it, no one liked it. They got really cross with the idea that we'd send them somewhere where they couldn't get to the website. I think, what you were talking about before, Martin, this idea of people going, you can't do that. It's not allowed. They need a link. They might want to look at our maps. Oh, I just want them to book on an open day. They're not coming yet. So yeah, we'll send them a map afterwards. This is something we did. So we sat with management, we did all this, we showed them this, and then we did something else. We basically worked out what the profit was. Scary word when we talk about higher education, but what was the profit of a student coming to study with us? So we know how much money we get per student for the 3 years of them studying. And we can work backwards and we can think about how much money we get. So for example, for every student that comes, how many students came to open day? So from open day, what was the conversion to getting people to be an applicant and arriving? Then we could work backwards, how many bookings on open day? And we basically were able to tell people the return on investment. So we were able to say, this is how much money we spent on this campaign, which I'm going to tell you now was not a lot, it was £1,000. And we were basically able to say to them, right, return investment, 100%. 100%, that's crazy, it's just insane. But once we started telling them, because at the end of the day, all anyone does care about at the moment is the money. It is, isn't it? And I know that potentially, depending on where you work, that's measured in different ways, but it's not just about bringing in money. Maybe what you're showing people is how you saved money or how you prevented cost. And that might be something, whether that's in local health authorities, or that's the kind of thing that people listen to. And when we started telling them this, all of a sudden they're interested in making interesting videos that might get conversions on social media. And they didn't mind us spending time building landing pages and really crafting content that would work for students coming to those. So that's one of the things we did. The other thing we did to make things more valuable, and again, this was a little bit controversial, I had stand-up arguments over this, but we basically put a wall in front of it. So we stopped anybody being able to publish content to our website without coming through my team and getting the content approved. That's it. Nobody publishes. The only thing people can publish are news items, because we don't want to get in the way of news cycles, and hey, they die after like a week anyway, and I don't know how many people read them, so well, I do. So what we did is, and apologise, other content management systems are available. I should have stuck like a red star over the top corner. So we put a workflow in place. So people apply for approval. In fact, I did a big red arrow. I forgot I did a big red arrow. But we gave them notes. So, and I'm just going to read it off here, but basically when people come to that drop-down bit to say apply for approval, it says, to ensure your content is ready for approval, make sure your page has a clear purpose and/or action, only contains content relevant to the reader and their needs, has a lead paragraph, uses heading correctly, follows the university's writing guidelines with a link to the writing guidelines. You can also check our page approval checklist to see what to do when submitting things for approval. So we're telling people up front, we're not just putting a wall in front of it and saying good luck. We're kind of putting a wall in front of it and saying let us help you. We're going to show you the things that you need to do to make really good content, to make pages good. And I think one of the things that we felt with this was that doing this, it was like, so we have 450 devolved authors at the university. We have 5,000 members of staff. At one point we had 800 devolved authors. We've reduced it to 450. We're trying to reduce it. A lot of those authors are people whose job is nothing to do with communications, and getting nods, yeah, and these people, that's not their jobs, they don't understand it, but they're doing the best in a really bad situation. They're just being given something and said, go ahead and do this, and so we have to support them. But when we did this, it was like their managers suddenly realised, well, it must be important if they're like making us do stuff to get it done. It was kind of like all of a sudden people started valuing us. I went through loads of fights, some really difficult conversations about this, but I came out of it at the end feeling like I'd kind of earned my little respect, and everyone suddenly, because I made it harder, Another thing we did, and this was just we built reports, so we have reports, so we have like a rota in our office who's on approvals, and when our approvals come through we have statuses, and if they're say like the pale pink or purple, we know that they're brand new pages, never been published before. And what we then say to people is, if your pages have never been published before, if there's more than one of them, you can't go through approvals. You need to come through our help desk because you should have done that before you did them. We need to talk to you about it. So again, we're just kind of getting people into this habit of feeling about how important their content is. By the way, am I going too fast? I talk like the clappers, so wave if you need me to repeat anything. That and the weird northern Welsh accent that I've got these days. So yeah, and something, I'm just thinking about this, like making it viable and what we're trying to do, but why is it that writing good content is so hard? You know, what is it about it that's just so difficult? But do you get this? Like, I don't know where to start. That's obviously something that a lot of people will say. The content has already been signed off. It just has to go up like that. Like, how many of us do we get that? And this is one of my favorites. It just needs to be on the website somewhere, you know. And this one is one of my favorites. Right, we've made this brochure. We're handing it out at an event, so we just want to put it on the website. Oh, so you made a brochure for print and you just want it on the website. That happens all the time. PDFs on websites. Makes me very angry. But like I was saying, you know, we can go on and on to these people about being content first, but it's not their jobs. So it's not something that they understand. So we've got to help them. We've got to help them write. That's something, you know, and we want to help them write content that's relevant, purposeful and inspiring. So we're trying to increase at Cardiff our opportunities to work with stakeholders to help them create content. We're trying to do more things with them because we realised that we were getting to the point when, I'm being honest, we probably spent more of our time telling people off and being discouraging than actually helping people, you know, because we got discouraged. We got a bit fed up of seeing the same thing over and over again. You know, it's like, it should be a H2. And everyone kept using H3s because our H3, Becky used to work at Cardiff, H3s were pretty. So everyone just put everything in a H pretty because it was in italics. It's not in italics anymore. We dropped that one. But yes, we want to help people write. That's what we want to do. And I want to get out there and help people write. So one of the things we're doing, so we do a variety of different things, group workshops, pair writing, but so group workshops is something we're trying to do much more of. And we did some recently, and one of the things we started doing, so we got them to do a number of exercises. So we started off, and this one's a great one for any group workshop that you do a wall of pain. Anyone done a wall of pain before? So you basically give people post-it notes, give them a time-bound period of time, ask them to write down what they think the issues with the website are, and then stick them on a wall. That's your wall of pain. Because by that point, hopefully, they've said all the bad stuff, you can now get onto the positive stuff. Now you can get onto the stuff that you're trying to find out from them. Because people want to complain. When people from different departments in the university come to us, they want to tell us how bad the website is, how bad our design is, and we put the intranet link on the footer of the homepage instead of at the top, because you can go to the intranet directly. But so we do that, wall of pain. Then we get people to identify, okay, who are your audiences? And we do, again, post-it notes, what are the tasks? And then we get people to assign the tasks to audiences. Then we get them to prioritise their tasks. So we do an importance matrix and talk about what's really important. And recently we did one of these, and in the process of this, one of our groups, the Widen Participation team, eliminated an audience because they realised during the process of it that they had no tasks for that audience, and the audience had no tasks themselves. So they just deleted an audience. You know, when people sit and are given the time to think about it out of their normal day-to-day routine, if you send them an email and say to them, right, we're doing this website, you know, you want us to do this content, who are your audience? What do they want to do? And they're going to just tell you the first couple of things they think of, and that's it. Whereas if you go and spend some time with them doing a workshop and get them to think about it and give them that time and space away from their desks and say, right, this is for you, I think we feel like we've come out with so much better information. Then the next stage of a workshop we might do, we probably wouldn't do it in the same workshop because they'll just all be sleeping, but we'll come back to them and then start thinking of content ideas. We can map out tasks. So for example, if you were doing, for us it's intranet content, very task-focused content, we have a staff and a student intranet. And if we're doing staff intranet content, we're trying to give people a task list. We might try and workshop that out so that we've got chunks of content and we're thinking almost like that priority chart of, okay, what's the most important thing? What are people trying to do? And we'll map that out using workshops, which, you know, can be really helpful. Something else we're doing a lot more of, does anyone do pair writing? Anyone sit and write with stakeholders? Yeah, it's so good, isn't it? It's so good. And I've put here GDS tips because there's a blog post that will say it so much better than I can. But if you search the GDS blog for pair writing, they've got a really good article about it. but they talk about how you should start on the same page. So it's like you both know what you're coming to this for. So pair writing is basically you sitting down with a subject matter expert or one of your stakeholders and trying to write the page, write the content together. You don't have to come out with a finished page at the end of it, but you sit there and you write it together. So you can agree a structure, come up with, okay, what do we think should be on this page? What do we think the order of this page should be? And then actually sit and write. And maybe let them start typing first, let them get on with it and see what they come up with, and then you can start to cut out the jargon. And the thing I like about pair writing, I think it's so much easier face to face with someone to look at them and go, I don't get that, what does that mean? Because on an email that comes off, I don't get it, what does that mean? Whereas in the face, you can be a bit more relaxed about it, and I think they can see that you don't understand. And for a lot of people, do you call them subject matter experts? We call them that because we think they're totally the experts. And because they're the experts, they miss bits out. Or they talk in a language that nobody else would understand. Particularly like finance, tier 4 visas. Oh my God, anyone working with tier 4 visa content, that's my current pain. So that's something I think pair writing is so super useful for. But also it gives them a chance to meet you, get to know you. They put a face to your name, so then maybe they're not quite so rude to you on the phone. And something else, ask for input. Ask them to go away to their team with it and get some input, but put a time limit on it. I think that is something else that's so important with what we do, put time limits on things. Don't give people forever. There's kind of this thing of, I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission. I'm totally one of those. Like, give them a day, give them 2 days, and then just put it up. And if they've got a problem, well, we can change it. It's the web. It's much easier, yes. I was about to set me off on another little ramble then. I'm pulling myself in. So one of the things we did, who's here from higher education? People, Vice Chancellor's salary, enjoyed that this year? That was a nice moment, wasn't it, this year? So we had to do some content about Vice Chancellor's salary page. It's one of these things that had to happen really quickly, that if you think about it, our university executive board clearly had very strong feelings about, that our communications team, who have to deal with the media and the press, obviously again want to be really cautious about. And what used to happen is we would be given a piece of content and just told, put that on a page. And we'd be thinking, it's not right, it's not worded in the correct way, I just think we could simplify it, I think we could make this a bit gentler or easier to read, or even just a bit more approachable and less like we're trying to hide something. So we sat down with one of the senior comms officers for engagement. We sat and wrote it together. And it was brilliant. And I won't bother reading it. It's not the most interesting page in the world. But actually, it came out so much better than it would have done if we'd have just done it completely separate. They'd have sent us something, we'd have had an argument over it. Wasn't the time to have an argument. We got something up really quickly, and it was so much more effective and actually felt like a truthful piece of content from the university, at a time when it needed that. And kind of in the same breath or similar bent as helping people write, but there's also this, I feel, about get in the room with people, meet them, talk to them. As I said before, we've got 450 devolved authors, 450 people with access to our content management system. It's really hard to convince them about good content on email. It's like we can post things, we use Yammer on our Yammer group, and it's like Facebook for work. And again, they don't always read it. And I think so one of the things we do is we run a variety of training events. So we run our content management system training, we run Write It for the Web training. We also run drop-in sessions. So we run sessions where we do it once a month. We advertise in advance and we say, we're just going to do a session about images, about getting good imagery, cropping imagery, how to upload imagery into the content management system, where to save it. Then we might do a session on documents. We might do a session on links. We'll just do sessions on very, very specific things. And we've got this hardcore group of people that keep coming back. And they're becoming our super editors. They're becoming the ones that we want to nurture because they're getting really good at it. The other thing we've been doing is identifying groups. So for example, during the summer, our student support services tend to overhaul all of their web pages, their internet content for students. And they tend to do it every summer. It can be quite onerous for us from an approval perspective. So this year what we did is we set aside a day, we booked out a room, we got all of their editors in a room, we got their comms officer, and we got some of our content producers in a room, and they did it all together. So they just spent a day working on it. It was almost like a hack day, but for content. I just like using that word, that sounds cool. And that was something that doing that together was really useful. And I think just getting people together, having those conversations, being available for people. So something we want to start doing, and this has come up in conversations we've had, is basically doing like surgery sessions in our academic schools. So basically going to reception or the canteen of an academic school, putting up a pop-up banner, putting up a table, and just being there all day. Advertise in advance, we're here. If you want to come and talk to us about the intranet or about the website, come and talk to us. Whoever, because we get academics or professional services staff saying, I don't like this, I don't like that, or I don't get a chance to talk to you. So we're going to come out and talk to you. We're going to be in your building and we're going to be here and talk to you. I think that's really important. And the reason I think it's important is because you're winning people over. And there is this part of our job that is about winning people over, getting them on board with what we're thinking and how you, because at the end of the day, once you've slowly won them over, you can make them do anything the way you want to do it. Now this, controversial, if you're like me and you think that putting FAQs on your website earns you like a death sentence, then this is, if you think, I hate FAQs, I hate having them on the website, how do you know your question is frequently asked? Why would I go to that page and look for it? Don't like FAQs. However, and this was like this really weird accidental thing that happened, it turned out to be something really good. So our finance team came to us. They were having lots of queries through their phone line and through their email about student fees, about students wanting to pay their fees and not knowing how to do it. They came to us with a list of 10 FAQs. Now they'd put a lot of work into this. They'd collated it all through the phone calls and through emails, and they'd actually been recording them for months and said, these are our top 10 asked questions, and here are the answers. Will you put them on, make a web page and put them on it? We're like, well, we don't really want to. But then we started having a look. And I have to apologise in a minute to anyone who is a designer in the room, because my circle drawings are really bad. They're really bad. Wow, I don't know what I was doing when I drew these on. But so the top question, this was their number one asked question, and it was, how do I find out how much my tuition fees are and when I need to pay them? And the answer was, you can find information on your tuition fees by logging into your SIMS account online, your Student Information Management Service. So then I went to the website and looked at the bit where we tell people how to find out how much their fees are, and it said, please contact the fees office. That was it. So obviously they kept saying to us, people keep ringing us, and that's not what they should do. They need to go to SIMS. So on the website, it just had the wrong information. That's it. That's literally the answer was, oh, we should just update the page with the correct information and with a link to SIMS. And then we've just solved FAQ number 1. Big tick. So starting from that point, just having had that realization of, oh, it's just wrong, we looked at the current usage of the pages, and we explored all the searches relating to fees. So we looked at what kind of what searches people were doing across the student intranet that related to fees. We also looked at what people were searching for when they were on the fees pages. So I'm on this page. If I'm searching for something, it's because I can't find maybe what I should be on this page for. So don't just look at your general search results. Look at what people are searching for on that specific page. It's really eye-opening. And then we went through the FAQs and we compared them with the live pages. And the stuff we found, basically, we just needed better signposting. We could fix pretty much all of the issues, better signposting, call to actions, related links. You know, some pages did have out-of-date information and that just needed fixing. And then also we could add curations to the search to promote fee content, because some of the things people were searching for were words or phrases that we wouldn't necessarily have associated with fees. It wasn't what the fees office would have thought to have called it, and that content, those words weren't on the page. So we can add curations and make sure that those pages appear top of the list. Problem solved. And do you know what? This is a method now that we're using all the time. So when people come to us and talk to us and say, you know, I don't think our pages are effective, we're not sure that they're working, and because do you get this a lot as well? People are like, they're just no good. They say, well, what's not good? How do we know? Have you tested it? Have we done any research? Do we know why it's not good? But if it genuinely isn't good, asking people to come up with their top asked questions, because if people are going to the website and through all of that, they're then emailing or ringing and asking a question, they really care about that question. That's really important to them. So therefore, that's the task they were coming to solve. So we need to kind of keep a note of all those, let's research them, let's put them together, and then make sure the website or the intranet solves it. And that's something that for us, it seems like something so obvious, so blindingly obvious, but came to us kind of by a bit of an accident and has really, really helped. Obviously, if we're going to talk about content, then we have to tell stories. And that's the thing we need to do. I think, you know, going content first and maybe moving away from, you know, the tech and the shiny, I don't think that means we can't also be forward thinking and that we can't be inspiring. You know, we might be the Honda Jazz, but we're still the storytellers. You know, we're the profile raisers. We're the filters of all the boring stuff so that what's really interesting rises to the top and is what people find. And I think that's what we're all here to do. That's what we're all doing in our jobs. I think content should inspire and it should inform. And telling stories is what allows us to do that. And if you don't think stories are being told in your institute or organisation, and I think no matter what kind of institute or organisation you work at, you can still tell stories, even if you think it's the most boring thing in the world, it's probably not. To someone out there, it's so important. How we write is a story, whether that's a task thing or whether, you know, what I'm going to show you now, some, you know, really inspiring stories. So what happened to us at Cardiff, we basically figured out that our research stories weren't being told. So all the stuff that we're a Russell Group University, meaning we're really research intensive. We have all these amazing researchers doing incredible things, and the stories weren't getting out there. So we hired a research content producer, and he went out and met with academics, he talked to various comms people, and he basically came up with a research content strategy to support the university's research strategy, to try and support the KPIs of better citations, of more visibility of our research, of increasing funding. And that's what our grand aim is to try and do. We think as a team, we can support that. We genuinely think we can support that. So what we did do was we then went out and got something shiny. We got some shiny technology to put our content in. We basically are using a platform called Shorthand to do long form stories. But Alex is going out and meeting our researchers. And so, for example, with this story, you know, after Blue Planet, plastic pollution, so important. We have a sustainability research institute. We have loads of researchers doing this kind of work. So Alex went out and met a number of different researchers and some students who were campaigning to reduce straw usage and put together a really beautiful long form story. And I can tweet this out afterwards and send you the links. I could have been clever and figured out how to scroll and show it you, but I couldn't, so I didn't. This is the second page of it. I did 2 screenshots and I put them together. It looks amazing. It looks like it drinks expensive coffee. It definitely eats scampi out of a shoe, but it is actually about the words and the content. And what we did with this, and the whole purpose we made this, is to be shared. We made it so that it didn't just stay in the website. The whole purpose, it's completely mobile first. It looks amazing on a mobile. It's got shareable links all the way through it. It was absolutely created with the idea in mind that we would do campaigns across social, across Snapchat, Instagram stories. That's what this was created for, and it's a way for us to promote our research in a really, really interesting way. But we treated it like a piece of journalism. You know, it took us three months from start to finish to produce this with amazing imagery, fantastic, words. So, the whole content of it is really powerful. We then started doing a similar thing with students, and this is just my slight cautionary bit about telling a story. So we have this amazing student, Lewis Oliva, who used to cycle for British Cycling quite successfully, but then decided he wanted to train to be a doctor. He wanted to go to medical school. So he left British Cycling in Manchester, which not many people do. If you're training with Christopher Hoy, you kind of don't go, I think I'll leave this. But he did. He wanted to be a doctor, so that's what he did. So he came to Cardiff. He's from Wales, and he's studying at Cardiff University. And he started cycling for Team Wales while he was here, got selected for the Commonwealth Games. So we decided, you know what, we should go and meet him, and we should do a story. Went down to meet him at the velodrome 2 days before he went to the Commonwealth Games. We did a piece, we took a photographer, took lots of photos. And when we talked to him, the most interesting thing that he said, and you just couldn't, kind of like, oh, okay. He basically said, and when you look at all his stats, his cycling improved after he left British Cycling. Why would that happen? The best cycling program in the world. And the reason he thinks it is because he said when he started training to be a doctor, and he's really blunt about it, he's like, well, I went onto wards and started seeing kids with cancer. And then I realised that doing standing starts on the bike and knocking 0.2 of a second of it wasn't the most important thing in the world. He got perspective. He just got perspective. And all of a sudden it made him relax. He just turned into a better cyclist. And nice ending to the story. He won a silver medal. Yes, go Lewis, amazing. We were very happy. But what we also realised, and the cautionary tale of the whole thing, was that what would be really easy for us to do in this piece would be to keep repeating how amazing Cardiff University is, and how it was our School of Medicine that made him do this, and how it was, you know, our sports team that did this and this. It was nothing to do with us. It was all him. So this story is about him. It's not about us. We mentioned the School of Medicine once. And again, I have so many complaints about that. Lots of people emailing me to say, but can we not put more in about the School of Medicine? No. And the reason is because by telling his story reflects glory. You know, the reason we focus on some of these students is because it's kind of like their values are our values. He's motivated, he's intelligent, he works hard. You know, that's something that we think we are as a university. You know, let that story be it, because do you know what? No one's going to share a story that's about our School of Medicine. Not in that way, because people can see through it. People know they're being marketed to. So we kind of have to have this balance. You know, a research story, yes, we're talking about what our researchers are doing, but when we want to tell us what our student stories are, we tell the student story and we don't get in the way. So that's just something I just feel really strongly about. What I do want to do now, I wanted to show you that something that somebody else did. As I said, I think content has this power to tell amazing stories. I think it can inspire readers, empower them to do things that maybe they just wouldn't do, or maybe make a decision that would affect the rest of their life. And I think you have to think creatively. Look outside what your organisation has traditionally done. Just go past it, just ignore it all. So there's a guy called Angelina Cortis, and he was the marketing manager at Western Sydney University. And he came up with this idea. He came up with an idea of representing that. They've got, Western Sydney University has a lot of non-traditional learners. That's the kind of university they are. And he had the idea for this, which I'm going to show you. And he took it to the management board of the university and the vice-chancellor. And the vice-chancellor said, no, we don't need to do this. It's too risky, and we don't think we should do it. But he pushed and he pushed and he pushed. And in the end, the vice-chancellor said, OK, you go and do it. But if it doesn't work, you're fired. He said, OK, so he did it. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? Does anyone else feel like I just need to go and have a little cry? I've watched that film so many times, every time. And I don't know whether because I genuinely believe in the value of education and the power that it has. And I think they just capture that just completely. It really gets to me. That video went viral, 3 million views on YouTube. Positioned them, it's basically positioned Western Sydney as this university where people have life-changing experiences. Angelina Cortis is now the vice president of Western Sydney University, so he's done all right, you know, but it just shows you about being brave, that idea of people telling you maybe don't do this thing, but actually genuinely believing that being honest and telling that story, you know, whether that's, I mean, I've seen things, police forces who've told really honest tales on Twitter. They've put things out that have been so open, and people really respond to it. I think people respond to honesty and openness, and they like to hear about people and about organisations and what we're doing. And I just think it's so powerful. And I also think that all of us in this room, no matter what your role, it's our jobs to tell that. I think it's totally, absolutely up to us to do this for our organisations. You know, we are the people that should be telling these stories. So kind of summarizing up in a way, this guy is called Peter Slee. He's a vice-chancellor at Leeds Beckett. I was at a marketing retreat earlier this year. That sounds awful, but it's what it was. It was not a retreat. He basically said you have to make it work in a crazy culture. We are in a crazy culture. You know, everything that's going on right now, Brexit, so no one's mentioned Brexit, no one's made a Brexit joke. I wanted to do a Theresa May when I came on early, but I decided I got it in there one way or other. But, you know, it is crazy, and we can't make people bend to what we want them to do, you know? We're going to break each other. If we try and force people to do things the way we want them to do it, we will break each other, we'll upset each other, we'll stress each other. People are just trying to do their jobs. So what we've got to do is we've got to find a new way, we've got to approach it in a different way, so we sell the benefits. And this one, I do think this, don't just be the guardians of the style guide. Louise and I had this whole conversation. I hate capital letters. Like if people write in title case, I get really angry, like genuinely very angry. My team like get really like, oh, he's left a capital letter in the design, I'm gonna take it out. Jenny's gonna get really upset. However, my job is not to be the guardian of the style guide. It's kind of to go a bit further than that. You know, people, it's like we can't just tell people how to write for the web. we need to tell them how to write. We need to tell them what to write about. We need to work with them to bring up, whether it's the tasks and the how-tos, whether it's those really, really inspiring stories. We've got to work with people and help them do it. So yeah, make friends with your stakeholders, be nice to them, and get them back to thinking about content before that shiny piece of technology, before that app that's caught their eye. That's what we need to do. So obligatory Steve Jobs, because it's a digital talk, and yeah, thank you. Any questions? If anyone does have questions, we haven't got time. So please do come and ask me afterwards. Yeah, thank you. Oh look, my HR manager's calling me.